All right, so today I want to share with you a few things that I do when business slows down. I'm actually going to give you three things that I do when my business slows down. And some people say business actually slows down. Yes, that's how it works. Kind of like the stock market, the ebb and flow of business. It goes up and it goes down. It goes up and it goes down. It's constantly up and down. That's just how business goes. You got to look at it. Your business is not always going to run 100 miles per hour. There is some times where it's going to be running 100 miles per hour, but it has to slow down for the hills. It has to slow down for the curves. We have to negotiate the curves and hills of business, just like you do when you're driving. You're not always going to be running, the speed limit. You slow down, you speed up sometimes. That's how business works. So when business slows down, there are some things that you're going to want to focus on as a business manager. I'm going to give you three things that I do. Number one, the first thing that I do when business slows down, and I don't wait for it to slow down to do this, but I really focus on it then, is I start talking to my shippers about future business, what's going on with the company. Well, what's the current direction of the company? Where is everything going? So I want to start talking about that so I can get some idea of how we need to position our business in order to be able to take advantage of some of those opportunities. So we want to figure out what's happening with that shipper's business, and the only way we're going to do that is by talking to them. We're going to be talking to our shippers, and you might just be having a regular conversation. Then you move the conversation toward business, where you get to talk about more about what's going on. I have shippers that I have very good relationships with. I start off talking about what's going on in life, and then we move that conversation to business as we go on with the conversation. But we want to know more about what's going on with that shipper and what's happening with the company, of course, so we can position ourselves to provide the assistance that they may need. Also, I'm going to be talking to that shipper about lanes that I may have been working in the past that we're not working now. And what I mean by that is sometimes your shippers are going to give you lanes. They're going to say, hey, we need a quote on this particular lane. Then they'll come back and say, okay, you've been awarded this lane. Well, that doesn't mean that you're going to get it every week. Somebody else is probably working the lane. It may have dropped on that particular week, and now you have it. So you might want to go back and start asking, hey, what's going on with the lane from North Carolina to Conklin, New York? You've already moved it. You've moved it successfully. So you just want to inquire about it. See, hey, what type of assistance they may need in the lane. Are they getting adequate service there? How can we provide assistance? Always just looking for angles to get more of that shipper's business. So number one, start to massage the current relationships that you have with your existing customers. Okay, the second thing that I want to do, I want to start looking at my carrier network. I want to make sure that my carrier network is, good to go. And when I mean good to go, you're going to have certificate of insurance that are expiring. You want to make sure that you got new COIs for all of your carriers that are coming up for renewals. That way, when you get ready to move loads with them, you don't have to, wonder, oh man, we got an expired insurance. Now we got to get that before we can move the load. Now you're going to get insurances anyway, but it's good to just be proactive and get that stuff on file so you're already good to go when it comes time to move loads. And you're slow anyway, so you want to make sure that you take advantage of that time to get on top of things so that when it comes time to move loads, you just move that load seamlessly without having to go through a lot of rigmarole that you would if you didn't take care of it now. So start taking care of your carrier network, making sure that your paperwork is good to go and everything is up to date. Also, you're going to want to look at your carriers and figure out, okay, who's due to get paid. When you look at your carrier network, you may have invoices that are out. Just say you have invoices that are coming up due on the 1st. Well, you want to make sure that the checks are already in the mail and those carriers are going to get paid on time. If you're doing it yourself, meaning you're financing your own receivables, you can take a look at your own books and make sure that everything is squared away. Now, if you're doing it through a freight factoring company, you're going to want to call your representative and go over that with them to make sure all of your carriers that are due to get paid are going to be getting paid on time, and all that were supposed to already be paid have gotten paid. That is ultimately your responsibility to make sure that your carriers get paid on time. So make sure that you take advantage of the slow time to make sure you're checking your records to make sure that your carriers are being paid. Because if you start having problems with paying carriers on time, then your business is not going to last for long. That's the key to your business, or one of the keys, I should say, is paying carriers on time. If you do that, you'll be able to, sustain and maintain relationships over the long haul. If you don't, you won't. So make sure that you're doing that. Don't let that fall off the table. Another thing that I want to talk about when it comes down to your carrier network is also taking a look at who you've been working with in particular lanes and what type of rates that you're getting in those lanes. You know, when you look at the lane, when you say that lane is moving at, let's say, $1,500, you know, could you move that lane at $1,300? Could you move it at $1,200? You got to look at that, because as a freight broker, you're always wanting to look at, you know, lanes very closely to make sure that you're not priced too high or priced too low in those lanes. You know, want to look at profit margins. You know, we're going to talk about that when we talk about financing, but those are the things that you want to be looking at so that you can make adjustments when the time comes. You don't want to be late when it comes to making adjustments. You've been carrying a price for too long in that lane that's, you know, too high, then, you know, that might reflect badly on you as you get down the road. The shipper might look back like, man, I've been paying too much for this particular lane, and, you know, I've been moving that lane with Alliance Logistics, so now I might want to move it with someone else. I'm going to, you know, start to take quotes from someone else because you're moving it at too high of a rate. Okay, but you're going to want to stay on top of that to make sure that when time comes for you to make adjustment, you make the adjustment, you know, so that you don't get caught out there too long being too high on a price. You know, sometimes you're going to be high on a price. That price is what you can move it at. That's understood. But if you can find some time, you look at it and you can find a point where you can bring that lane down, then you definitely want to do that. You know, now I don't mean bringing it down and cut it to where you're not paying the carrier a sufficient amount of money in that lane, or you're not getting a sufficient amount of money on your profits. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you're making, you know, maybe, you know, an excessive amount in that lane, you know, like if you're making 20% in that lane, 21, 25% in that lane, you might want to say, hey, I can back down in this lane. You know, now if you're on contract, that's something different. You might want to leave those numbers as they are, because different time periods, you know, it's gonna, that numbers are gonna adjust again. So you might want to just leave it like it is if you're on contract. But if you're, you know, if you're doing basically spot rates, don't continue to give the same numbers every week. You know, especially if you're not getting the loads, that would say that you're too high. You know, so you want to back down off of those numbers to make sure that you have a good working number, so that you can, you know, take advantage of the opportunity. You know, when you're bidding on loads, the whole idea is not just to bid. The whole idea is to get the lane. So take a look at how you're doing that. Take a look at your numbers. Now it's going to move me into the third thing that I do is I start to pay very close attention to my overall numbers. I talked about profit margin a little while ago. I'm going to look at the profit margin that we've made this month as compared to the previous month. And let's say that you were 20% behind this month. Then you want to look at why that is. Why are you 20% behind this month? Are you, you know, negotiating? Is it your negotiating skills on the carrier side? Are you negotiation ineffectively on the shipper side? What's the problem? Is it, you know, what's the real deal here? When it comes down to why your numbers are off, you want to take a look at that so that you can, you know, change the picture to reflect what you wanted to reflect. And how you do that is taking a look at those numbers and making the proper adjustments when it's time. Also, you're going to take a look at your profit and loss statements. You want to look at your cash flow statements, because these, you know, statements are going to be telling you a story about the numbers of your business. Your numbers are going to tell you a story. Now, it's up to you to pay attention to that story that it's telling. So when you know, of course, start to consume the story and understand the story that it's telling, then you can go in and say, okay, I see how this is going. I'm going to change some things here, and we're going to, you know, going to help us to make up some ground. But if you don't listen to the story that your numbers are telling, you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt. You're going to find yourself being, you know, at the end of the month, there's not going to be enough money, you know, and we don't want to put ourselves in that position. So we got to pay attention to what the numbers are saying. And then not only just pay attention, we got to take action. We got to do something about, you know, why the numbers are where they are. We got to do something to change that. Okay, so pay close attention to your numbers. You know, you can get your profit and loss statement, get your cash statement, and start to take a deep dive into those statements so that you can understand, you know, what's going on there, and then make the proper adjustments. So those are three things that I do when my business gets slow, and your business is going to get slow. As a good business manager, that is the time that you want to take a look at your business and do some house cleaning, so to speak, making sure that everything is up to snuff, because things can easily get off track. And when it gets off track, it's harder to get back on track, so we want to keep it as close to the track as possible, and that's by paying attention to our business and the numbers of your business. When it comes down to those numbers, that's the heartbeat of your business, and we want to keep our hand on the pulse and the heartbeat of our business so that we can understand when it gets out of rhythm, and then we can then make the adjustment. So that's what I wanted to share with you. If you're stopping by for the first time, consider subscribing to our channel. This is a channel all about freight brokering, self-development, self-improvement as business owners, as people. We want to just get better and better each and every day. If you are that type of person, then this may be a channel that you want to subscribe to. Because that's what we're all about here. Also, if you like this type of video, if you would give us a like, it would surely do a lot for us. We certainly would appreciate that. Just like it, click the like button. We like likes, so I would certainly appreciate that because it helps me and it helps our channel. So thank you so much for stopping by to spend some time with us today. If you're interested in learning more about the freight broker business, you can go to our website. It's www.brandonthefreightbroker.com. And what you can do on that website is sign up for my 5-video series, and it's going to show me moving freight. That way you can get an idea of how this process works instead of just hearing about it. You're going to see me actually moving freight, talking to customers on the shipper and the carrier side. You're going to see all of the paperwork that moves a load from point A to point B, and then show you how we get paid. That way you can see it, and then if you're interested in moving forward with a training program, you can do so, or give us a call and we can find out whether our training program kind of marries up with what it is that you're interested in achieving, and if so, we can explore the option of moving forward. So thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I hope this has been helpful. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.